Hello. Welcome to the Empowered Artist Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Apple, a multi-hyphenate actor, educator, acting coach, writer, dog mom, and founder of this vibrant community that champions artists as they carve out their own unique paths in this wild industry. Whether you're just starting out, in the thick of it, or seeking a bit of artistic fuel to expand your toolbox, you're in the right place. In this space, we'll have honest conversations, share actionable strategies, tips, and resources, and delve into the messy yet beautiful journey of living a sustainable, creative life. We unmask the reality of life as an artist, from navigating career highs and lows to nurturing your full human well-being. I chat with women and non-binary guests who share their personal stories, helpful learnings, and hearts to help you unlock your artistic potential, expand your knowledge, and show up fully and fearlessly in your artistry and daily life. Before we dive into this week's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If today's chat resonates with you, please leave us a review. It helps us reach even more incredible artists just like you. And hey, feel free to spread the love. Share this podcast with a friend or post it on your socials, making sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can chat with you there. All right, grab a cup of something cozy, settle in, and let's get to it. What if you redefined success as trying wholeheartedly for the things that matter most to you? In this deeply reflective episode, I talked to returning guest Liz Kimball, who first appeared on episode 24, which if you have not yet listened to that episode, I highly recommend you going back and doing so. Liz explores how her creative process has evolved since her previous episode and what it means to redefine success on your own terms. We unpack the impact of achievement culture on artists, the myth of external validation, and how our worth is not tied to performance. We share tools to combat the inner critic to make space for expansion, talk about building inner safety to create freely, explore ways to celebrate small wins without shame, and unpack how self-kindness is not just soft, it's revolutionary. This episode is a powerful invitation to remind you to create from exactly where you are, to rewrite your definition of success, and to honor the process as the art itself. If you've ever felt trapped by shoulds or questioned whether your work matters, this episode brings the language, tools, and presence to help you reclaim your power and reimagine your creative life. Enjoy. Liz Kimball, you're back in the space.
I'm so delighted to be in this space with you.
It feels like a blessing. It feels like a breath. I am so curious and excited about whatever is going to unfold, because I know it's always just going to be real and present, and that's like the most beautiful of conversations. And so for anybody who has not listened to your prior episode, who are you today?
I am open, and I feel I'm identifying with my feelings today. I just kind of feel like a kind of awe about us getting to talk, the blessing of getting to have this kind of conversation. And yeah, I just feel some delight about that. Though that's like what I'm feeling in this very moment. And then I'm a lot of other things too.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, you were with us on our first season, episode 24, which feels truly like a mile away at this point now, when we are deeply, beyond just the single 100 label. And it feels in some ways like a full circle moment, but it also feels like a growth moment. And I think about our conversation that we had on that episode. Often we talked about the creative cycle, and I feel like it's still equally as relevant, if not more, now. And I'm curious about, for you, since that time, what for you has felt maybe expansive or in the world of growth land, or where has your creative cycle been leading you? Just kind of circling back for a sec before we move forward.
And can we take a moment to honor where you are and the body of work that is this podcast, and all of the listeners that are part of that? I mean, it's really just amazing, like what you're doing and the ongoingness of it and the contribution.
Thank you.
So
I'll take that.
Yeah, we need to celebrate.
It's hard for me, but I'll take it.
It's so much to put your voice in the world, and to put your work out there in this way that's serving people is just like such a gift.
I appreciate it. Trying. I'm trying in the little sphere of my life in the corner of my world, like, the ways that we can all kind of show up and be of service. And I guess in some ways I find that this is a more accessible way for myself. So,
trying is my definition of success.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, I don't know about you. I have been burdened by definitions of success throughout my life,
girl,
that have not served me.
Girl.
And then I found out that this, my clients feel the same way. It's like we're all just sort of oppressed by achievement culture. And the way that I think something I spend a lot of time thinking about is like where this kind of achievement culture is intersecting with the arts and the creative path. And it's like, I'm an elder millennial. And at least my generation, it was just like so kind of jacked up on achievement. We're now having some reckonings.
Yeah.
But I think in the last decade of my life, I've had to be like, these definitions are trash.
Yeah.
And so I like workshop, and I also like love language, and I like having landmarks. I like having something like, okay, that old definition was basically putting me at war with myself, and that's the opposite of creativity. So how do I create something that works for me? I want to follow the rules. I just don't want to follow anybody else's rules.
Ugh, preach.
Right?
Preach.
I am actually a rule follower. It's so interesting. I've like written a lot about not following the rules. I love a rule. I just don't like a rule that keeps me out of my power. So, okay, success. It's like, I was like, what is success? Really, what does it mean to me? And so my newest definition is trying enthusiastically at things I care about.
I love it. Anybody who listens to this podcast frequently knows that word for me, I combat in real time. I taught a masterclass the other week, and this one student asked, about this thing about moving to New York, and how much money should I have so that I can be successful? And I stopped her and I was like, thank you so much for asking this question. I appreciate it. And I'm going to unpack it before first of all, I'm not going to answer this. And the should, from whomst is this from? This should thing. And success, first of all, I don't even really know your name, let alone where you live, let alone your life in any way, shape, or form, and who you are and what you value and your ethos. But also, your success is completely different than somebody else's. So why are we operating under this assumption? And I literally went on a whole diatribe about verbiage and language.
So good.
And I feel the same way, where it's like, there are so many of these words that we float around that hold meaning, that hold real emotional meaning to us in the way in which we exist and operate in our lives and in this world. And I don't know, I'm in this place and have been these past couple of years, certainly, around questioning, why am I defining it like that? And from whom am I defining it like that? And is this the way that I actually feel this word in my body? And is this the way that is it helpful to me to even use? I do not use the word success. I try as hard as I possibly can to never have that word come out of my mouth in relation to my art, somebody else's art, somebody's work, because it's completely arbitrary. It's a barometer that actually doesn't make any sense, I feel.
And there's the both and of, I think the psychological term is we're teleological. We want to move toward things.
Correct.
I watch my kids do this. It's like they love a mission. I mean, you want to
you want purpose.
You want a purpose, and you want to feel useful, and you want to know actually where you're heading. You want to kind of have that North Star. So it's like the idea of having a North Star, and the problem is just what is that North Star? So I'm so curious. Do you did you rewrite a definition, or where are you with
No. And that's why I think you're trying with, I think there's something for me that I'm trying to unpack around process, and really getting more comfortable, first of all, being in process and embracing process and recognizing that is creation. I think that will be my life's journey of recognizing that when I complete something that is a step, not the full thing, when I complete the step, that's still quote unquote success. That is still art that is still like forward movement. Like I think really continuing to integrate the movement part as the thing itself is going to be my life's journey as a adjustment. But I don't have a working definition. I just know that that word within me triggers something around society that has nothing to do with me.
I love this. I think process is my love language. It's occurring to me in this moment. Because, I feel like reclaiming process is a really brave thing, especially in, so like the creative life intersecting with digital culture and sort of what creativity is in the digital space, I think is not a process. I mean, there's not really a kind of space for process, and it feels process is sort of antithetical to quote success. So, and also, my best friend is a first grade teacher, and she said something to me that has stuck with me for really, like, I think about it almost every day. She said that like classrooms are a place where you can write, like kind of create the world you want to live in. So you can't control anything else, but like her classroom, she can control the culture in her classroom, or at least, set the tone. Yeah. And I just think about that so much with a creative process. Like it's not just about the output. Output is great. Let's celebrate output. But like inside the process itself, like we actually are shaping culture. We're shaping kind of our own culture, and then we're shaping anybody else we're encountering. Like just the whole, doing this podcast with you, there's a culture here, and you value process. And so I just think so much about like inside of our process, when we feel there's like, how can my little tiny little speck of a human in the midst of this, collective grief and rebirth that we're going through, what can I do? Like, I do think like inside of my process, I can try enthusiastically to make a better world, make a more beautiful world.
I know, but also, and I don't love the buts of it too. That's another word I'm trying to combat. I'm trying to do a lot more anding, not butting.
But and also is my favorite.
But and also. I guess it's the how. Like, how do you reconcile that within your small little sphere as you're in your little process? I'm not belittling it. I'm doing it for myself too. Like within our own little spheres, within our own little processes, like how that's actually making the difference if it's not actually a result or a thing. I think I combat that often, which is like, are these little steps, these little micro movements, even though they may feel larger for myself, like, are they actually making impact? And I guess I bring that up just because that is the thing that I'm associating with quote unquote success. There's like an impact part of it that it feels heavier. It feels weighted. It's like the success of it is like there's the thing. There's like an impact. And I don't know, I these like micro little movements, the process, again, I'm not debating it because I don't want it to be the thing. It's just that like while I'm doing it, are these little movements doing anything? Like how do we gauge that?
Aren't you are just onto something, because what you're basically articulating here is really, I think, one of the deepest sufferings of the creative process is like, does this matter? Is what I'm doing, does it matter?
Yeah.
And how, whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but, and we battle with that question. And I think I've decided, I don't know if I'm having impact. I think there's this sort of deep release. There's so much impact that creators have that you never know about. And this idea that like, I'm supposed to be in control of knowing what my impact is. And like, and then that impact is directly affecting sort of how well I think I'm doing, which is why I've had to look at this question of like how well I think I'm doing. And you asked me about what have I learned, where have I been since our last podcast episode other than like covered in children? I think the thing, and this is so humbling to say, that it took me this long to get here, but I think the thing I've been really reckoning with is like really unhooking my personal worth from my creative performance. And not that I'm not here for like exceptional creative performance, but so it just goes back to impact. Like impact to me is about creative performance. And it's like, I'm doing well because I'm impacting people. And, you know, and then I'm not talking about like, you know, strategic moves in terms of views and like, we have to talk about that. But in terms of just like, I think we have a story about it that's unreliable inside of ourselves. Like, I'm not making enough impact, or does this really matter? And so that's why I'm like, am I trying? Am I really enthusiastic about it? Like, or am I pretending to do something that I like, but I don't really like it? Like, that's a gauge for me, is like, do I really actually feel kind of that deep divine enthusiasm? Because if I don't, then I'm going to tell myself so many bad stories about how well I'm doing. And usually the answer is not enough impact.
Okay, so much was just shared so eloquently and also so abstractly. This is like my favorite kind of conversation that I wish I could have every single second of my life, where I feel like some people are like, this is so philosophical. And I'm like, this is so philosophical. Like the yes and to it. So for you, just so that I can understand where you're gauging it, is like, if you show up to a creative process and you really feel within you there is a real urge to be present, and like there's a fullness of yourself to the thing, for you that feels like success, even if you don't necessarily know how it operates.
It is the way I'm trying to redefine it for myself.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's beautiful.
Which then allows me, okay, so like, let's talk practically for a second. Like,
Great.
Let's say I'm writing, or let's say I'm designing a program.
Great.
That's the first definition I have to work with. And then I'm an entrepreneur. I own a company. Like, I then have to look at the work in the world and see how it's doing, and have like practical, real world strategic conversations about it. But when my worth is not on the table, then I can have a better strategic conversation about it. And it's actually way easier for me to be like, oh, that didn't really work.
How are you able then to separate your enthusiasm from that?
Yeah, because I'm like, I could be enthusiastic and it didn't work for, you know, the company, but I still think, you know what, like, I'm going to still define that as a personal success. I tried something. It was meaningful to me. And meaning to me too is also like, I sense something in the air and I like want to create something that responds to that. And then it didn't work, but that's okay. Like, I was still, at the end of the day, a success for myself. This is, you know, this is what I'm trying to, this is how I want to look at it moving forward. Because if I don't, it's like a doom.
I'm also on a mission to re-invite people to just recognize that like they're worthy, period.
Right.
Like
unconditional mattering. Yes.
Exactly. That it's not because you've done said thing that therefore you're worthy, or because you've gone here. Like, it has truly not, you being a human on this planet makes you worthy, period, period, period.
It's a radical idea.
I know.
It is.
I'm trying from my little corner of the world over here. And in a capitalist structure, in a Western culture, in a hustle culture that is so about the proving, how do you separate the worthiness from the things? Like, for you, like, I appreciate, again, like, I'm just pushing on it because I want to do this better for myself, of like, I really do hear the trying enthusiastically. I do believe I do that. I try to try enthusiastically. And I do come up against, like, you know, the little fucker on my shoulder that's like, but you haven't, and you didn't do it this time, and you didn't do it in this way, and you left out this thing, and blah, 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 all the little battles that happen within you about all the ways in which you're doing this stuff. And then you're not able to, then you're coming up against the worth, even though you might have done the thing that you were trying to do so enthusiastically. Like, how are you separating that? Or how are you giving yourself grace or care in it?
So I have learned that when your words, the little fucker, right? And everyone has their word for it. I call it the driver, sometimes the tiny terrorist. Some people call it the inner critic.
Yeah.
When that voice enters the chat, and this is on the good day, right? On the good day, we're not going to have a conversation about success and how well we're doing. Like, that voice does not get to weigh in. So I would say I'm going to get, like with your question, we're going to get so knotted up in a kind of negotiation.
Yeah.
I think when you start to feel that like, oh, I'm negotiating with that part of myself, that's what I've learned for myself is like an indicator light of like, get out the chat, like get out of the chat.
The chat with the fucker or the chat with the process itself or like what you've been working on?
Like I'm not available to have a conversation with the little fucker.
But then won't he keep poking you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, yeah, like maybe 100 times a day. But
yeah. Or I guess when do you then give him time to speak? Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, this is sort of getting into like, are there tools to work with that voice? And I really do think that getting it out is so much better. So like if you want to write it out, if you want to talk to somebody like a coach or a therapist or a friend, and like really kind of releasing it is a real big part of it. But it's understanding that we are just releasing it. We're letting it be heard, but we are not engaging in any kind of rational conversation. It's telling us lies. I mean, so this is what I've had. It's going to tell us lies. And so we can't be available for the conversation. I mean, this is just, I have had to set like, and by the way, I have to set these boundaries like 100 times a day. Yeah. These have to be like the strictest boundaries of my life. Yeah. I don't have personally any wiggle room there. Like if that voice wants to tell me and kind of offer, because it masks a strategy. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm the little fucker and I'm here to give you some strategic advice.
Yeah. To help keep you safe and okay.
Yeah. But its presence is there because you're in a space of expansion. So the good news when that voice shows up is like, oh, I'm in a space of growth in my life. So it does have a purpose. But how, for all of us, like, how can we become unavailable for its feedback?
I love the flip, though, of really offering it back advice. Like, I love the idea of it shows up and you say back to it, thank you so much for letting me know that we are in this moment of expansion.
Yeah. That would
like,
be
thank
so
you.
Good. I mean, we have to be so creative here with how we work with this part, like, because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. I mean, I've really spent a lifetime kind of working through this. I think I will for the rest of my life, but I have, it's so powerful. And so I think like any tools of interruption, like what you just said, even voicing something out loud, well, it's going to interrupt whatever that kind of cycle is.
Yeah. I'm here for this. I know we like went down, even though I want to come back to like the worthiness of it all. But like, I do think it's helpful to just to invite in the fact that is going to pop up while one is trying to navigate the process of anything, that like that little part of yourself will be there. So I think just acknowledging it and calling it into the space right now to be like, FYI, like, we're not delusional that this isn't a thing that's going to happen all the time.
Every time. Not only will it happen, it is a sign that you're on track, right? Like it's a sign that you're headed towards something that is creative and unique and new and expansive. And for me, it happens every time. And sometimes you get really gripped by it, which is like a dark night of the creative soul will happen in kind of every creative process. It doesn't make it easier, but it does good. It's good to know, be like, oh, here you are. Okay.
And therefore, oh, I might be onto something beautiful or wonderful or scary or new or expansive.
To me, learning how to talk to myself benevolently in the creative process has been such an edge, has been so radical. So I think that somebody more advanced might be able to be like, oh no, I'll negotiate with the inner critic. I'll take some of its quote feedback and strategy. But I've had to really kind of say, like, for me, I need kindness to work. And so when kindness comes in, the inner critic does get kind of quiet. Like I just don't think if you can just get a little bit of that sort of benevolent voice, and it feels so like, what's the right word? It just feels so basic almost. You're like, oh my God, be kind to yourself. Like, duh.
Yeah, but those things are the hardest things.
This is actually, I think, sort of some of the really advanced work is learning how to work with yourself benevolently.
Hi, actor friends. Talking to you. If finding the perfect monologue has you feeling stuck, I've got just the thing. I've put together a free monologue selection toolkit just for you. It's packed with resources, free and paid options, plus tips for choosing, editing, and customizing pieces to showcase you. Head over to jenniferapple.net/freebie and stop avoiding the auditions that ask for a monologue or waiting for the perfect piece to simply fall into your lap. Dive into this free toolkit that I set up just for you that'll set you up to feel agency over your process and artistry. That's jenniferapple.net/freebie and get started on finding your next go-to monologue. What have been your most effective tools to begin encouraging yourself to do so?
For me, journaling. I know. Again, oh my God, what is she saying? Journaling on a podcast. But journaling. So I do this thing. It's called active imagination. Do you know what this is?
No.
It's a kind of roots in Jungian analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's related to two-way prayer. If you've heard about that, like Liz Gilbert's really big on two-way prayer where you write back and forth with kind of a God voice. But you can do the active imagination with any part of yourself. And so I will do active imagination, which is just, it's like writing a play. I really write it out like a play. I write my dialogue and then my inner critic's dialogue. And I'll do that with kind of the inner critic. And then I'll do that with what is the sort of flavor of benevolence I desire today? Is it like a kind of goddessy voice? Is it a higher self? Is it like a future self? So I'll use it in both of those ways. This tool has been very helpful for me.
I love that. I think that's a beautiful offering because it gets it out of you. It also is doing exactly what you're talking about, which is giving yourself kindness. And you're also giving space for like all of these parts of yourself that are popping up as you're trying to move forward. I think that's lovely. And yeah, you mentioned journaling on a podcast, but like whatever, it's the truth.
It works. So, and that's the kind of thing is actually sometimes when we come back to like tools and practices, it's like the ones that work are usually pretty basic and you already know what they are. It's just like, it's like, am I really doing it? And so I know if I'm sort of gripped by the driver, I have to like do these, it's like fundamentals, like flossing my teeth, like doing the active imagination, telling my husband about it, like, and really naming, for me, I have to like name the horrible things it's saying.
Yeah.
Because it for me, somehow it kind of removes the power. And then all of it neurologically is interrupting, which is the most important thing is we just got to get out of the cycle.
1,000%. Thank you for offering that. I want us to go back now then to the creative process of it all and the idea of the expansion in it. I'm curious how you have found for yourself, for your clients, in the times that we are living, how when life feels often overwhelming and unstable and unsettling, how have you found are some helpful ways to continue leaning into even more so the unknown and the unstable and the overwhelming? I guess I'm naming that in a way that, like, as artists, more often than not, what we do is, we aren't in this because of health insurance and, 9 to 5, you wake up and you do the thing that you're going to do every day. There's a level of creativity and newness that is exciting and also often scary. And that's just from like a personal level. And then you expand out to your own little circle and then the larger circles and then the macro world circle. And arguably also now the social media circle of it all. And the worlds can feel even more oppressive. So yeah, just throwing that as like a large starting point and we can kind of migrate from there.
I have been thinking about, we're in like terrifying times. And I think something underneath everything you're saying is like, how do I create when I feel unsafe? And we know about creativity that like you can't feel curious until you feel safe. So we sort of acknowledge this need for safety. And then we're aware that because of everything that's going on right now, it feels so hard to feel safe.
Yeah.
So I think the first most basic way I look at that is like, again, it sort of comes back to the fundamentals, like how are we each working on inner safety? And this is something we have to work on even when things are a little bit easier outside of us. how can we sort of work to create inner safety? So here's another thing. I think like in a lot of my creative development, there was all this talk about like, you know, don't play it safe. Like I kind of heard that.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting to, I've never actually it's so weird because it's the same exact word, but like clocked, like, yeah, don't play it safe is all of, you're using literally the word safety, like in that phrasing. And I've actually never in my active life thought about the safety that you need to not play it safe, even though that's literally the verbiage that's being told to me. Like I haven't clocked.
Totally.
Yeah. Wild.
And don't play it safe. The intention there is let's push. We want to like take you to your edge, right? This is expansion. We want to help you expand. So the intention is good, but the way it creates some stories in us is like, oh, okay. Well, me as a good creative, me as a good artist is like, it doesn't matter how I feel, or it doesn't matter if I feel, you know, that kind of lack of safety inside myself. I'm doing good. And I'm sort of doing what I was told to do. And I think that's wrong and also not effective because, and if we can all look, you know, I think this is so interesting. Like if you look back in your creative history, our creative history has so much to teach us. And it's like, when did you feel like you were doing your freest, truest work? And when I've asked this to people, and I do this exercise with folks called uncovering your flow pattern, because it's like we want to look at the moments of flow and what was true about the moments of flow. And I have never heard anybody say someone was kind of intimidating me into my greatness. Yeah. Like it's almost always that there was something in the environment that really made space for me and to feel, you know, to maybe people wouldn't say safety, but that there was something about like somebody was helping you be safe enough to do that kind of free work. Yeah. So I think figuring out for ourselves, how do we start to create the inner safety and this is like nervous system healing practices and all of these different ways. Therapy really helps, coaching helps, all these things, community, so that we can, and know that like, that's important.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you'll feel safe as a citizen in this world right now. You know, like we can't wait for that. So that's the other thing that I think I've been thinking a lot about is like, and this is actually came out of motherhood, is like this idea of creating from where I am. Because if I can come up with this story, again, the story that my brain tells me, which is like, well, once I got a hold on this motherhood thing, and once I figure out how I'm going to save us from fascism, and once then I can work on the book, or then I can whatever. And
good luck.
Like, right. And once I figure out who I am after having kids, then I can write again. You know, whatever these stories are, right? It's like, I think something that's really helped me is like, I'm going to create on the go. You know, I'm going to create from where I am. I'm going to create while I'm just trying to figure out how we save this country from authoritarianism, like at the same time. So can we hold this together that like, what if this could be a creatively expansive time? You know, what if it could be for each of us? What if that's actually what's needed? You know, I know this is not like an easy thing to think about, but I think that if we get hooked into the fear that's being thrown at us right now, there's great damage there that can be done to our creative dreams. And so I think I'm like, something I feel very tender about right now is can we hold your creative dreams sacred? And how can we protect them from this? It's very strategic fear too, you know, in the world right now.
Yeah. In the protecting then of these creative dreams, going back to what you were saying about like our own inner, I don't know, it's healing, comforting, safety building, frankly.
Yeah, sure. And it's a real thing with the nervous system. Yeah. I mean, I'm like a student of it, but
so, I mean, arguably we can't, you know, protect these dreams until we are feeling secure within ourselves to be able to then release said dreams into the world around us. No?
Well, could we? Because again, there we have a little bit of a like, once I feel totally safe and my nervous system is healed, there's another like, once I
delaying,
right?
Correct. The delaying.
Once I'm fully healed. This is something I encounter a lot actually in my coaching practices. Like at this point in my life and at this point in so many of my clients' lives, we're navigating big stuff, like just
Huge.
personally, parents dying, children, pets, moves across the country, industries totally reshaping themselves.
Yeah.
And then now we're all collectively here in the US, and also everybody in the world is feeling it too. It's like, what are we? Yeah.
What's happening?
It's kind of apocalypse. So we're already up against really big stuff right now.
Right.
And so we really have to figure out, like, I can't wait for that stuff to be through to just kind of express, because the expression is going to help me feel good as I go, we need you to express.
Yes.
So it's another one for me of like, can we create from where we are? Can we work on building inner safety and also just be like, I'm not going to, wait until some perfect moment where I'm like, I'm healed. My nervous system is healed. I don't need any more therapy. Look at me go,
I mean, yes, I agree. I think that's often why, when I do workshops, I often start with like a body scan. And, it's truly like we all know how to breathe because we literally are alive and our bodies do it even when we're, sleeping, and subconsciously it's happening without even us thinking about it. And it's just like we know how to do that. And, we also, we know in theory how to exist in whatever stillness means to us, whether that means our minds are wandering or our bodies are, existing and there's blood moving through it, which also isn't like we're never actually fully still. But like in that stillness of a body scan, which is so we know how to do it, we often forget that we have that tool, for example. And I often start at workshops with that to be present so that we all can now be where we start, like where we are, and start together in that way. And from that place, it's like, you cannot be anything other than what you are in that moment. And we can try to, and we can tell ourselves things, and we can diminish these feelings and little fuckers that keep popping up and whatever, but they will pop out in other ways that we don't want them to unless we invite them along for the ride. So I do that. And I try to bring that within my own life of like, okay, where am I operating from? Recognizing that in my own spaces, I am trying to heal, and I cannot wait for full healing because that will never happen in my entire literal existence on this planet, because something else will always rock the thing and shake the thing. And then you realize that this other new part needs to be healed. So ongoing life process. But then where is that safety line, right? Like if we are trying to cultivate our inner safety and the world continues to feel potentially even more unsafe, and we also recognize that we cannot wait to be healed, and we all like how do we know when the like creative impulses are okay to be released? Like obviously, like I'm not talking to as like a therapist in that, like, you have the answer for everyone, but just like in this expression of creativity, the balance of the safety wall externally and internally feels like this constant negotiation when all we are really needing is that release of our creative needs and expression.
Yeah. And one of the things here is what I hear you saying too, is there's actually in the releasing of the gift. I mean, and maybe that's like for somebody that might be a post, for somebody that's created, singing a song in front of somebody else, or that's pitching your show to a network or whatever it is. Like we need to feel that expression, and that will actually help us through this moment. And then how do we kind of get over the fear that's in between us and that thing?
Yes.
And part of, it's naming that just because we're working on healing and safety doesn't mean we're going to feel comfortable and ready and good. I think the more we're really honest with ourselves that okay, fear comes in, that means we're in a place of expansion. Okay. And then what fear is going to do to me for a while, or the fucker or the inner critic or the tiny terrorist is going to do for a while, is it's going to make me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's going to make me second guess everything, knowing its patterns, right? Here you go again. But I will not let it keep me from, the work I'm here to do, the expression I'm sort of here to, whatever I'm meant to release in your example. Yeah. And then I think knowing, but if I'm panicking, if I'm really kind of not okay, right? There's sort of the fear of like discomfort, and we sort of, but then there's the like, I'm actually really not okay right now, and the first thing I need to do is like get some support, and I don't, the thing I should do is not pressure myself to make a post or sing a song or whatever. And I don't know, I don't have a like clear distinction, but I do think we can cultivate an ability to sort of know the difference between ourselves, because we really do need to know what it's like to feel afraid and uncomfortable and be like, no, this is my growth. This is my expansion. Or is this panic really, and I think you know it in the body too, it's contracting my whole body. I can't breathe, right? Like, okay, I need to address that first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're naming that there's different levels to discomfort, and some are harmful and some are expansive, and getting to like know yourself and your body and your internal rhythms in a very intimate level to know the difference, and being able to clock where that is will be a helpful tool for folks to begin to explore that movement and release when you can kind of navigate that.
Because we feel, I think one of the kind of things we have to navigate with like the self-care wellness culture that wants us to feel good. And I love feeling good. I want you to feel good.
Who doesn't? Yeah.
But in the creative life, in the creative work, even just birthing one thing, you know, like you're going to feel, I just think we feel every human emotion. I think we feel all of it, and really knowing and expecting that I will feel all of it. And knowing that that's me doing my job as an artist and as a human, you know, as a creative person. But knowing for each of us, when is it too much? I think that's just a personal journey. And we do want to have that kind of a conversation where actually this is kind of causing some harm for me right now.
Yeah.
So what if I took a break? And that's like also the bravest thing.
I love it. Thank you for going on that journey with me. I think it's important to name, because we all navigate it for ourselves in different ways, but it comes up in everything, in every sort of micro macro way in our lives. And I think just to even put that on the radar of like, let me begin to just be more cognizant of like my own internal rhythm, and like when are the patternings happening that these things are popping up, or, oh, I'm feeling this always happens in my chest every time I do this, or, oh, I'm like unable to speak in these situations. Like, oh, this is helpful information. There's no judgment to it. It's just like the noticing that then allows us to be able to choose how we want to address it or not.
It just occurred to me that I think I've kind of figured out how to sort of know some of the difference. So maybe this will help somebody. When you sort of hear that fear narrative from the fucker, such a good name, by the way.
Thank you. I also love the tiny terrorist. For me, that's making me giggle every time.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. The tiny, it terrorizes me. For me, it has a flavor of cruelty. Not everyone, but for some of us, it really has a flavor of cruelty. So something I've learned is if I feel totally out of control and sort of it's overpowering me and I can't get it, I can't sort of like take control of the story, that's when it's not worth it for me to keep going. I'm not going to push through that. That's abuse.
Yeah.
So knowing that like I actually have a boundary there, and that no creative project is worth feeling unsafe in my own mind.
That part.
And so I think we can all start to get even more attuned to knowing, okay, can I be in control here, or is this thing controlling me? And therefore, it's not worth it. Yeah. My output's not worth that kind of harm that it's causing me.
And then in those moments, do you take a break and walk away? Do you advocate for yourself and ask for different accommodations? Is it dependent upon project? Like, what do you do in those moments when you clock it and you know?
When I'm like, this thing has got control.
Yeah.
Okay, this is great. I mean, and so for me, these like, to be really clear about this, and I've worked with this my whole life, I have panic attacks. So they'll lead to a panic attack. Yeah. And I am in therapy for this. I have done EMDR. It's like I am really addressing this therapeutically in excellent ways. And I'm just saying that because like this isn't me just kind of hacking myself. It's really a process. But I have to step away from the situation if possible, and either take a nap or move my body or have a conversation with someone. Those are kind of the three things that are sort of the best for me at this time.
Thank you for sharing that. Have you been using the same monologue for years? Are you gearing up to apply for BA, BFA, or MFA programs and need pieces for that process? Or maybe you just have no idea where to even start with monologue hunting? I get it. And that's why I offer monologue sourcing. This is a unique process where I find monologues chosen specifically for you. So many artists pick pieces based on external labels like type or for roles rather than finding material that represents who they truly are. So here's how it works. We'll meet virtually and you'll share all about who you are, your passions, values, beliefs, and everything in between. Don't worry, I will help guide you through this process. Then I'll get to work finding monologues that fit you like a glove. With years of experience sourcing pieces for hundreds of artists, I've seen the difference it makes to have a monologue that genuinely feels like you. So, if you want to feel empowered about the monologues you bring into rooms and use for auditions, I would love to help you find them. And because you're a listener of the Empowered Artist Collective podcast, I'm offering an exclusive rate. Head to empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo to register and claim the special offer. That's empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo. I cannot wait to help you find monologues you absolutely adore. I'm curious then on the opposite is like, let's say you do continue moving through and there is a moment of expansion and there's this beautiful creative expansion moment.
Oh, hallelujah.
Yeah. Hallelujah. For real. How have you found are some ways that we could, and I guess I want to like mention this, going back to what we were talking about earlier, like these little micro movements too being moments of breakthrough and moments of expansion, even if it's not the quote unquote big thing that you were reaching. How do you find that you are able to celebrate yourself, that you are able to honor the fact that you push through all of these beautiful and crazy hurdles to even make the growth happen? Because I think that for me is also something that I'm trying to get better at, frankly, around like celebrating my little wins. I'm not good at it. You know, I have my laundry list of things, truly, like I can, you know, I'm not going to lift it up now, but like my literal, like, you know, long to-do list, and it never ends. And I wonder if that's just adulting or the times that we're living in or the career that I picked or my ADD or whatever it is. Like, you know, at any point, like I should be with the shoulds, but I should be, you know, smiling and honoring and celebrating every single time I cross something out off of that fucking to-do list. And I don't, but I should, because the shoulds, but I really should. Like, why am I not celebrating myself? This shit is hard. And like this list never feels ending. So I want to get better for myself about like, what am I doing? Is it like a little dance? Is it a little wiggle? Is it like a calling a friend? Is it like a snack? Is it like what are the options that we even have available to ourselves to celebrate? And also, is that wild? And like, will we be celebrating every single moment because we're just like literally living in this horrifying world, and that is a celebration because it's oppressing? Like, where do you draw the line around celebration? Because you don't also want it to be like watered down now that you're just like truly living and breathing in this day. This is my brain.
I love it. And I think a question that comes from me is it possible to celebrate ourselves too much?
Yeah, that's a huge question. I mean, I don't have that luxury yet. Like that isn't where I've flipped, but I do wonder that.
But it's sort of like, what's the real fear here? You know, is it that I'll get a big head? Is it that like I won't?
Probably.
I think for me, sometimes the block here has been there's a connection between honoring, acknowledging, and celebrating. And my little fucker, tiny terrorist, thinks that means this is it for me and I don't need to keep growing. And it's like this is almost like complacency, or it's like you think, you know, you should want more. Like this is
exactly.
You're sort of you're kind of honoring something that's not big enough. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of that not enoughness thing.
Yeah.
So the reason I think celebration and acknowledging ourselves is revolutionary is because of that. Because like that voice will never let us kind of honor ourselves. And so to do it every little time, that's why it's like, do all the things if you can, because you're rewriting the story about your greatness and what's worthy of being celebrated. And like, this is just, you know, and there's great brain science to support that, acknowledging the wins, which we would all know this in relationships with others. When someone takes a moment to be like, hey, that was great. Thank you. You know, like a real, you're like, that just felt good. Mm-hmm. What do you think keeps you from celebrating? Now I want to know.
I definitely think there's like the ego part of it. I also know just like my life's journey is, and what I, you know, consistently work on in therapy for myself is just the taking up space of it all.
Mm.
I really do believe in an actual like rooted ethos way. And, again, I share this with clients too, of like, your success is my success, whatever we're saying this word success is, but that like your winning is my winning, because that means that people who share the same values that I do are like finding space. And that means that there are more spaces that are in alignment with like my values and my ethos. And arguably also people who are your people will say your name in rooms in a non-transactional way. Like, it's just like there really is more for you if the people that you love and care about and look up to are finding the things that they want for themselves. But for my own battle, and I also do believe that there's enough space for all of us in a conceptual way, but within myself, I think, my own life stuff and, traumas from youth, it was a lot about trying to keep me small because I took up a lot of space, because I had a lot of thoughts, because I was really full and present, because I had a lot of opinions and I was loud and frankly talented and maybe decent looking. Like, I had a lot going for me. And I think as a woman also in the world, like, there were many, many people in impactful spaces that verbally and otherwise tried to keep me small. And I think I combated that for a while and became even bigger. And that in of itself was abrasive for many. And then it threw me to the other way of like, okay, maybe take a step back and really accommodate. And a lot of the accommodating and the smallness of it all. And I think I'm in a space now where I'm really trying to remember that my expansiveness does not A, take away from anybody else, B, is quote unquote permission for somebody else to step into their fullness, and C, there's enough room for all of it. And why am I even doing that to begin with? So yeah, I think there's that for me is probably the largest of like, if I celebrate myself, what space is this taking up? And at what cost, for whom, in what capacity, it's the space.
And this practice of under celebration, I sort of think under acknowledgement, accommodating others and taking up less space. It's like, do we as women, do we have anything more to learn about this? I sort of feel like we could all, give the TED talk on how to do this.
Yeah.
You just gave it, you could do it. Yeah. And so where's the space of what is there new here to learn? What kind of edge are we collectively, you and me today? Like, what are we most curious about? And what I'm curious about is like the experiment of, okay, so this is what I have been doing. What if I wildly celebrate myself and sort of go too far? Like, what would going too far look like? Only just to know.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm so afraid of this, that's a sign, I should probably kind of
lean in.
Yeah. And what could happen? So I would just do an experiment.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of just, in rehearsal processes for shows and stuff, when it's just like, well, God, if you only knew the way that I would try this, if I had my freedom to try this part and and they're like, okay, do it. And you're like, well, it might be too much. And then, I mean, the amount of times that I've made bizarre, strange, wild choices on, say, like a self-tape, and I kind of knew. And I kind of knew, like, this, I'm actually booking this. Like, because there's a level of not observing oneself that happens in that, where you get out of your own way and you also trust your instincts. Yep, you're free to just try and lean in, and there's impulses and I imagine if I were to do a little happy dance every time I cross something off the to-do list, that it really wouldn't be a big happy dance. It would be a small little jiggle, and I really wouldn't even feel that large. And I would know that in real time. Feel like that was silly. You could easily do more. Throw yourself a dinner party and throw it at a big event.
Yeah, and not because you should, not because someone's telling you to celebrate yourself more, but it sounds to me like there's a connection here between this practice, and we all know it's like really in the culture right now about be like, celebrate yourself. We hear it all the time. And there is like a body of research that really supports the power of measuring backward and looking like, okay, I'm not celebrating my current, success. There's the word again, but I'm not celebrating my current sort of work based on where I want to go. I'm celebrating on where I've come. Like, this morning that was undone and now it's done. Like, I'm looking backward and being like, yeah, I did it. And there's such value in it, but there's also for you, and I think you're really onto something where this is connected for others too. It's like, it's about taking up space. And I think when we talk about this, about taking up space, it's like emotional for so many of us.
Yeah, huge.
And I have sort of found, and I work with women in my practice, when we kind of dig into this thing about like whatever our kind of stories around taking up space are, it's usually, that's a good expansion doorway. Like, that's a doorway we kind of want to walk through, and we don't have to have all the answers, but it's like, I want to know more about who you are when you sort of start to unbelong to some of these rules about not taking enough space and kind of betray that, because I just think like exactly what you're talking about with those auditions. All I want in life is creative freedom for me and everybody else I know. And like there's really something there, but it's really brave to walk through that doorway because you have to disappoint people inside your head.
That part, the disappoint inside your head part of it. I think there is this element of projection around like other people and the way in which they'll receive the things that you do say are. And,
yes, this amorphous crowd that we all have.
It's wild.
It's not even that big. This is why it's like usually when we kind of encounter this stuff, I have found it's usually about like 5 to 15 people, and they hold us. They're holding us hostage.
So real.
From our greatness, because and it's not even like what they're actually doing. It's just what we think they're thinking about us in this moment.
And no one's thinking about you in this moment. Like, no. I think, I'm not, like, we're not thinking about that. No, it's just not. Like, it just isn't. And I just, there's a whole cacophony of there's just a lot of people living inside of us. Anybody that listens to this podcast be like,
to get out. Yeah. I mean, that's
I know.
Thing. Like, you're talking about space. I think space is basically the most important thing. It's like, we just need space. You will birth the beautiful work of your life. We don't need to tell you how to do it. We don't need to you will do it. You're born to do this. But you do need space, and you do need a creative room that these people are not in. And that the fucker is like, really, there's a bouncer at the door and is like, you are not. Yeah, welcome. No, she's in session right now. It's like when you're recording, you're like, in session. Yeah, she's doing her big, magnificent thing. Like, thank you.
Yeah. There's no room. We're at capacity.
Yeah, no, thank you. And also that inner crowd too. Yeah, it's really big. And everyone can tell you who's on it too. If you really, you're like, and then there's sort of just like generally people from high school are always, or what are maybe elementary school. Usually some family members.
You probably, or for me, it's probably a bunch of industry folks that
Right.
Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really wild who's not invited to the party, and they've made themselves an invitation.
And so just as a thought experiment for all of us right now, it's like, who would we be without that kind of crowd? Like, who would we be without sort of being tethered to whatever that crowd is, to the little fucker, to these voices that come into the creative room? Like, imagine for a second just sort of being free, like just as if you're trying on a t-shirt, there's like, try that on for a second and be like, what would my process feel like?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's scary because it's like, oh my God, then maybe I'll actually
have to listen to myself. Yeah, I have to listen to me and my gut and my thoughts and all of the things that I have not given myself permission to lean into. Yeah, that could be even scarier. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're in a place of expansion, and it's like, oh, okay, what do you need here? You need water, you need love, you need comfort, you need, because you're navigating the uncomfortable. So like, we can't control this expansion, but we can take good care of you.
Yeah. I could talk to you for 8,000 hours.
That would be cool.
To talk to you for 8,000 hours.
Like a podcast marathon, like a Cory Booker style, like, we're going to do this for 20
Okay. You joke, but I would with you.
I would be so curious. I bet we could go on for a really long time.
We haven't even scratched the surface of any of, yes. Oh, yes.
And then there would also be an award for the 2 people who listened to that 24-hour podcast. In the way I listened to Cory Booker's whole thing. I mean, just like I'm interested in like big creative feats. That would be a big creative feat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can go off about that being something that we should all study and learn from. But anywho, I'm so grateful for this conversation and truly like actually wish that I could have talked to you for much longer, because I have so many little sparks that are flying and questions that are echoing in my brain. And I want to continue this conversation. And frankly, hopefully we will. But for anybody who has also listened and maybe had some thoughts and things popping up for them, and they wanted to learn more about you or reach out to work with you or find the things that you write or share with the world, like what within your boundaries are the best ways for people to find you?
I would love for you listening, if something sparked something for you, send me a DM on Instagram just about it. This is so important to me to talk about this stuff. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from you there. And so I'm at Liz Kimball on Instagram. And I'm also at lizkimball.com is my website. And joining my email list is actually the best way, because I, like so many of us, are still sort of reckoning with Meta and some of these platforms. So I think the thing I'm really clear on is my commitment to my email list. So I love that community. So join my email list at lizkimball.com if you want to keep the conversation going.
I love it. Thank you for going on this philosophical and spiritual and brave, emotional, vulnerable conversation with me. I'm just so grateful for the way in which you think and the way in which you express yourself, and that you provide services to people for them to also continue unlocking all of it for themselves. And I think you're the shiz. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's unlock it. And thank you for being our fearless guide.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you walk away with some fresh insights, feel inspired, and a little more empowered to take the next step on your artistic journey. Remember, whether it's a small shift or a big breakthrough, every step forward counts. You've got this, and we're here cheering you on every step of the way. If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll never miss out on the discussions we have each week. And if something today really resonated with you, please leave us a review. It truly is one of the best ways to help other artists find our podcast and join in on the conversations. Plus, we feel the love too when you do. And don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share this episode with your people or post about it on social media. Be sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can see what's landing for you and keep the conversation going. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Keep creating, keep thriving, stay empowered. I'm Jennifer Apple. Until next time.